I think I was the stereotypical, like, you are not getting married. Ever.
Like people have actually said that to your face.
Yeah,
like,
people
legitimately.
actually said it to my face. One of my best friends was pregnant with her 10th. I'm
Wow.
just yeah.
She doesn't have a TV, does she?
Yeah. I'm telling you, Sarah, I was the epitome of a person should have never gotten married. And my uncles, who are not so religious, like, complained to my mom a lot. And they were like, she's going crazy. And my mom's like, dude, either should be pregnant or Haredi. Pick which one you want. Like, that's what I'm saying. There's no rhyme or reason that I'm married. I look at my best friend and I'm like, you are so much more normal than me. How did I get married and you're not? Like, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. I'm like, I think that people want to, like, give these reasons and people want to talk about it and people want to, like, say things. But in the end of the day, like, no, there's no rhyme or reason that I'm married except for the fact that Hashem decided, okay, I've been hard enough on Tamar, let me just give this, let me just shoot this one in,
Sarah and Max, an unlikely pair in this wild podcast, they're the perfect flair. Sarah's charm, so feminine and free, a Cali girl spirit under the podcast tree. Max is strong force with a punch in every word. Together, they navigate the dating absurd. Don't forget to hit subscribe, join the crew for more laughs and tales just for you. Now back to the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Good for Shidduchim. I'm your host, Sarah Levine, and as always, I have my co-host with me, Max Landisman. Even though we're separated by a sea, we always can talk about Shidduchim. We always find the time.
That's right.
If you guys like us, please give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star review, subscribe to our page, listen to us wherever you can listen to a podcast. We can be found on Instagram, Good for Shidduchim, and you can email us goodforshidduchim@gmail.com. And today we are very excited to introduce Tamar Ben-Tzvi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Tamar, we're very excited to have you.
Thank you.
Just briefly, how we got into having you is that from my understanding is a clip came up on my husband's LinkedIn that I think like one of his people in his network tagged him in to watch you, and it was about it was the clip of you saying,
there's no rhyme or reason why somebody is not married. I still remember a conversation that I had with a friend 2-3 years before I met Giddy. And she said to me, you see that person in the picture? Her sibling is married. She's not married. Because she's heavy. I thought that I was going to be an older single. I suffered from depression. I was suicidal when I was in high school. I was heavy, or heavier than the size 0. I didn't have the right trajectory. I was conservative until I was in 7th grade, and then I became Orthodox, and I flipped out hardcore. I have a father that passed away from stomach cancer, and I did not go to seminary. I met Giddy at 22. I got married at 23. I had the happiest marriage. There's no rhyme or reason why somebody is not married. Can we please stop saying, oh, you're not going to get married XYZ. Oh, you're not going to get married, you didn't go to seminary. Oh, you're not going to get married, you're too heavy. Oh, you're not going to get married, you have mental health issues. No, I refuse to accept this. Join me and refuse to accept it too. It is not okay. It is not okay to scare women, to scare girls. They will not get a shidduch if XYZ. We can't let our girls be scared of shidduchim. Let's change the society. Let's change the culture. Let's change looking down on singles. It is not okay. Thank you.
I don't want to hear why people are not getting married for like XYZ reason. And it was like so
basically,
clear.
There's no rhyme or reason why somebody's not married.
And I think Max and I, and also my husband, we were like,
it happens to be Sarah. I think it's actually really funny because I think Shlomi found it completely separate from me, like because I was on Instagram and I saw it on Instagram, and I think Shlomi sent me that link, and he's like, "You may want to have her on the podcast." I'm like, "I'm way ahead of you."
Thank God,
I'm way ahead. Yeah, it went very. Listen, if you expanded on LinkedIn, you really hit it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it definitely went viral. I think that it struck a chord with a lot of people. And these are real stories that happened to me. And I still remember who said, the comment about you're not going to get married because you're too heavy, or you're going to be an older single because you're too heavy. And, the person that they said it about, whatever, like, it's, how much can I say that's not going to be on the podcast?
Right.
Like, I'm gonna edit it.
I know it's okay.
You can say anything you want.
Anything you want, but we understand what you're saying, and like it really
Yeah.
did. Like when my husband showed me the clip, I was like, oh my gosh, like I know who she is, of course. And the fact that you were talking about this, it was just like, wow, we really have to have her on.
So the funny thing is, and what people don't know, is that came from a very deep spot in me, because it was 7:30 in the morning, and I was going to it was 7:30 in the morning. I was going to monitoring, and I like early morning monitoring for IVF. And I literally was like listening to a podcast by Meaningful Minute. And they mentioned something about Shidduchim, and they were like, yeah, like, even though the cost is so high of Shidduchim, people won't get a shidduch if you're not married. And they were like saying that it was bad, but also they like said it, and it really like bothered me, because one of the things that really always like, it's funny because I've been through a lot of different things in life, but I think one of the hardest things that I've ever gone through, and that says a lot because I've been struggling with infertility for 6.5 years, and my dad died when I was 8.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But one of the hardest things I ever had to go through was not going to seminary. And I was distraught. It was beyond hard for me. And it was always a fear, like, are people gonna like judge me, or am I not good enough because I didn't go to seminary? And like, I don't know, something really like struck me, and I'm like, okay, I'll go to monitoring, but like I need to record this, because I was all like, like revved
You were
up,
in the
like,
moment.
let's
Yes,
just go.
it was in the
I edited it after I woke up from the second time and whatever, but I recorded it when I first woke up. So.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it was very raw. I do feel like a
Very
lot of your videos on Instagram and clips are very like raw. And I was gonna say that like your platform is like what you speak about is very like apropos, not like a lot of people want to talk about it in terms of infertility, in terms of sex ed. You just had like a whole thing on sex ed, dating in general, also mental health. And
But
I was and
I'll tell you,
what?
I sometimes save songs about like, different songs that like resonate with me, about like reels, if reels come up or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, that song was my whole childhood. Now I'm blanking on the song, but like
I think you just
Mammal,
had a
right?
Katy Perry one.
N-
You just
No,
had a
no.
Katy Perry one?
Oh, that was
No.
just tonight about Rav
Uh,
Hirsch, right? So we go
Right,
from
right.
like
'Cause it's your
sex ed to
birthday.
Rav Hirsch to like,
Right.
everywhere in between. But I definitely believe that sexual education is like really important. And I think I'll tell you what it is also about me, that I grew up conservative until I was in 7th grade. And, one of the things that really bothers me about the Orthodox Jewish world is how closed people can be. And I think that even from the beginning of my page, it was like, let's open up the Orthodox Jewish world, like, let's be halachic, but let's learn from the conservative community that you can talk about stuff. And it was something that I really missed for years. And now I'm just becoming the voice of like, what else can we talk about, and like,
Right.
and also I think
Shidduchim.
that
Shidduchim,
I
yeah.
just had to do that.
exactly. No, for sure. And also, I do think, my best friend is single. She's 30 and she's single, and like, it really does affect me. And also, I'll tell you the other thing, that like, when you're going through infertility, right? there's a lot of overlap with being single, and I'm not saying that they're the same thing at all, but the overlap is very real. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and me and my friend talk about it a lot. And there's pros and cons of both, meaning like obviously both of them suck and they're not what you want to be in the Orthodox Jewish world for sure. But like, you know, sometimes I get jealous of the single world that like there's like a chevra of people that are going through the same thing and people that are all dating and can complain to each other, where like, yeah, I kind of have that virtually, but I don't have that like, I live in a community where most of my friends have 3, 4, 5 kids. One of my
Mm-hmm.
best friends is pregnant with her 10th. So I'm just
Wow.
saying, yeah.
She doesn't have it. She doesn't have a TV, does she?
No, she does. She doesn't, but they still watch on their computer,
Oh, she right.
No, but they're not Yeshivish at
Okay.
all, actually.
No, that's funny.
But no, but like I'm saying, like all my like on Shabbos, right? Like you was even talking to somebody over Shabbat, and they were like, and they were saying like we hosted this past Shabbat, but we can never host with one family because if we host one family, then they don't have kids, they don't have other kids to play with. So I'm like, we have to host 2 families at the same time, you know. But I think that a lot
Right.
of and I do feel like we're in the single community, it's just like adults that are often going through the same thing. At the same time, I think that like obviously I'm married to my best friend in the entire world. I am a very, very lucky wife. I am doted on all the time. Like I'll be like, can you just fill out my
Mm-hmm.
bottle? Can you just do this? Can you just do that? And like people that are single don't have that. People that are single, like, don't have husbands to like, tuck them in at
Mm-hmm.
night and like, whatever. I'm just saying, like, I think that like but I think that the similarities are very real, and I think that they overlap. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask to backtrack a little bit and just
Yeah.
you and tell us how you and your husband met, because you said that it was something you weren't expecting at the age that you weren't expecting it. And again, people were telling you, putting ideas into your head about, I'm guessing, about dating in general, when you'll find your spouse, if you'll find your spouse, because you have these issues, you're not going to find a spouse.
Yeah.
So people, I'm sure, can relate to this and are struggling with it. And I just wanted to hear your side and how you met your husband.
Yeah. So, I want to just have a disclaimer that like it was the easiest thing I've ever gone through in my life. And it was like, I know that most people coming on here, or a lot of people that are like listening to this, are like, Shidduchim are so hard. Why that the easiest thing? But like everything else, we've always had to, like, everything else was always a struggle for us. But I
Mhm.
do say Hashem handed me my husband on like a silver platter. Um, Basically, what happened was that I, just to like backtrack even more, when I was in college, my sister got engaged. And the wedding was going to be in November. So I like didn't really pay attention in school. I'm like, oh, I think I'm graduating. Like, should I do something with my life? Maybe. So my mom was like, yeah, Tamar, what do you want to do with your like life? What's your next step? And I came from babysitting on Pesach, and my mom goes to me. She goes, like, do you have a plan? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out in Israel for a month with my sister. And she goes, Tamar, you don't know how to hang out. Why do you think you're gonna hang out for a month in Israel
Yeah.
with your sister?
Yeah.
Who's the opposite of you.
Mhm.
Like, it just didn't make any sense.
Mhm.
And so, long story short, I decided to go on a Masab program and make Aliyah and like come to Israel. My husband came to Israel August 17th. This was in 2015. I came to Israel September 2nd, 2015. And then my husband was at Tor Shiraga. He was working at Tor Shiraga. And I'm sure many people probably know him. Avi J. Schwartz set us up. He's like,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was on my softball team, I think.
Which is in the same.
Yeah. So Avi J set us up. He was in Griscolo at the time, and he whatever.
It's on the same campus as Torch Rock.
Okay, Gross is on the same campus as Torchaga. Go away, Giddy.
Right.
Anyways, but no, like Gross is on the same campus as Torchaga, so he basically he set us up, and he messaged me, and he goes, "Do you want to date this guy?" And Avi J. Schwartz is from West Orange, where I'm from. And I didn't really he has a good name, he has a good reputation, Avi. So I'm like, I didn't even ask for a picture. I'm like, okay, sure. And then whatever, Baruch Hashem, a few of the guys, a few of the girls that Giddy was set up with, or people that tried to set him up with, were busy. So he's like, oh, okay, I'll go out with this girl. And it was actually kind of funny because the night before the actual date, I found a video of Giddy's on YouTube, and it was him being every single character of the Perm story. And I was like, this guy is weird. What? What
is it
this?
still on YouTube?
No.
Oh.
Long story short, no.
He deleted it.
It's not because we took it down. It's because it got whatever. The account got flagged for having kids in a bathtub.
Okay.
Not sure what that has to do with Purim, but all right.
All right.
So anyway, so basically, I saw this video, and it was a very up close of his face, and I'm like, okay, this guy, okay, what is happening here? And it was from his Shana Aleph. And I freaked out, but it was too late to cancel the date. So I went to the date, and I literally came late. I wasn't I didn't wear makeup. I was like, okay, this is gonna be a one and done. And I let the date knowing that it was gonna be a one and done.
Wow.
But the other type of one and done. The type of I am marrying this guy. This guy is the shit. I love him. And I called my sister, and I called one of my friends, and I'm like, I'm marrying this guy. And that was that. And then we ended up basically just dating. We were in Israel, and we had both made Aliyah, so it was just surviving together. Fun fact that I asked him for 800 shekels the first month of dating. Just because we were surviving, that's how much we were surviving together. Okay, I need help. Can you help me? I had to pay my rent. And I'm it's Chag in America. Can you maybe just lend me some money? You know what I'm saying? People don't date like that normally, but we also knew from we had spoken that on the fourth date that we were gonna get married, and
wow, on the fourth date.
Yeah.
So he knew immediately also, it was just love at first sight. Second date.
Yeah, he knew on the second date. I knew on the first date. But it was pretty quick. And we just we just knew, and I think that the real thing that going back a little bit, I don't know if you guys know him or people listening to them. I set Aaron Weinstein up with Sarah Alt. I don't know if you know either of them. No. Sarah Alt was big in NCSY. Anyways, and Stern, she was TAC president. I don't even know. Anyways, so I set them up, and I remember that he told me two things. He said, first of all, Tamar, you need to marry somebody that's going to be more giving than you are. Because thank God I'm a very giving person by nature. I'm kind of a big bubby that everyone kind of comes in my arms, and I just help everyone. And not in a pompous way, but just that's who I am. And second of all, I knew that I always needed somebody that knew how to deal with adversity, right? My life was always very, very complicated, and I knew that I needed somebody that was going to be able to handle life's struggles in the same, with me. And so on the first date, both were very clear. My husband is a big extrovert. I think most of our conversations are in a good way about people, like not like lashon hara, but like just like in a very like fun, cute, like whatever. Like we love going to Shabbos meals and then talking about it afterwards. And also we had a conversation about adversity on the first date. And I just was like, okay, I can deal with this. He's good at that adversity. He knows how to adapt to his life, and like I'm like, it was also 3 hours. Like it wasn't tough
Wow.
enough,
Yeah.
which like our first day was walking around the Tachana Merkazit and like Center One and like that was our,
Yeah.
So I also think Israel kind of lends itself to be a little bit more of a relaxed dating environment, because it's not like, oh, I have to pick her up, I have to pick him up, oh, I have to go to the Stern campus, oh, I have to go to the YU campus, like we're gonna meet in the Heights, and like we don't want people to know, like we didn't know anybody, nobody was here, and like it was just a totally different vibe,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had mentioned also that you both were in YU and Stern at the same time, but you guys didn't meet at, like you had no idea
Yeah.
who you guys were. Yeah.
No, so I had no idea who he was, and he kind of knew who I was, like a little bit, like from social media, um, but like not fully.
Uh-huh.
But like he's heard of me before. It
Mm.
is funny, like like we both did not date that many people before we met, but a few of the people that he dated was like a few of my good friends, and like whatever, and like vice versa. And then like when we did get married, like a lot of people were like, the husbands and wives, like I was friends with the wife, he was friends with the husband, and like, it was fun because we could do like, oh, these are gonna be our 8A, Kedushin, but like not an 8A Kedushin, but like 8A, I don't know, Tanaim, or 8A
Right.
Yichud and whatever, and like they were like, but they were like friends, and like even though I picked one and he picked one, but like we both were like,
In the
so
same crew. You guys were like in the same
yes.
group. Yeah.
Exactly. I also is kind of funny because one of the guys I went out with, I'll just say this, that one of the guys I went out with, my brother my brother's 4.5 years younger than me, and checked out yeshivas when I started to date. So I was dating, and I went, and he went to Israel to like check out yeshivas, and I was like, oh, like, I'm whatever, I'm on this date, and the guy's like, oh, what yeshivas is he gonna check out? And I'm like, this yeshiva, that yeshiva, and Torah Shraga. And he like bashed Torah Shraga. And I literally got up, and
Really?
I'm like, next. And I never thought I would end up with my, a good Shraga boy, but I very much liked the yeshiva, and I guess Hashem knew that was going to be, the yeshiva.
Yeah.
I got my husband. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, so I wanna backtrack even further a little bit. I know you mentioned that meeting your husband was the easiest thing in your life, but you mentioned that you had a lot of struggles growing up, and especially in the quote unquote this is something we talk about a lot on the show, which is honestly one of the big reasons we have a show to begin with, is this unnatural way of scaring especially women into thinking that if you don't do exactly as I say, if you don't go to a seminary, you don't do this, you don't do that, you're never getting married, which obviously we're extremely against, and it's something we talk about a lot. That has happened to you apparently once or twice before. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about it.
I think I was the stereotypical, like, you are not getting married ever.
Like people have actually said that to your face.
Yeah,
like,
people
legitimately.
actually said it to my face, 100%.
Wow.
It's funny because I remember exactly where I was, what we were doing, and I was like, oh, okay. And like they said it about they said about weight, and I'm not 500, 600 pounds. Like I'm a little curvy, but like I'm not like 500, 600 pounds, and I think that like, and the person that they said it about, of like, you're not going to get married, that person's an older single because she's heavy. was someone that I really admired and really respected. Baruch Hashem, she ended up getting married to an amazing man. Um,
I'm like so upset with that comment. Like, whatever.
and she was one of the best girls ever. Like, she was literally like, to this day, I'm in awe of this person. I'm not gonna say more, but to this day, I'm in awe of that person. And I think that, like, for me, I was very stereotypical. Like, I checked every box basically, right? So, like, I was born with congenital hypothyroidism. Congenital hypothyroidism. A lot of people have thyroid issues. I think it's 1 in 4,000 babies that are born with congenital hypothyroidism. And that means that, like, from birth, like, I could have had special needs if I wasn't on my medication. So, it's something that's like, that already, right? Like I always say, it's kind of like like any vaccine, right? So, like, you give them a vaccine. I kind of related most to the coronavirus vaccine, because, not to get political and not to get whatever, but like, a lot of people said about the coronavirus vaccine that, like, you could still get corona. You won't have it as bad, but you might still get it. And I think that was very much what, like, I was on medication since birth for hypothyroidism, and thank God I do not have special needs, but I have speech issues. I am a little bit hard of hearing. I got diabetes when I was 12.
Wow.
I had very bad eyesight. Like, I have, like, auditory processing issues, a lot of behavioral issues. Like, I was, like, the kid that went to the principal's office. I was the kid that went to the principal's office, like, twice a day, every single day, when I was in, like, 5th and 6th grade. Like, that was me in, like, a nutshell. Somebody told me to kick a hole in the wall of my teacher's classroom. I did it. Somebody told me to call 911. I did it. Like, I'm just
wow.
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like impulsivity kind of like came along with it.
Yeah, and just, like, getting attention and just, like, everything. And then, like, after my dad passed away, right? Like, my dad also passed away very, very, very suddenly. And yesterday was his 24th English yard site. So he's been gone for 24 years. But he passed away very suddenly. And, like, that also, like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't want to get, I don't want to deal with that because her dad died at 37, and, like, every single reason, right? Like, I'm a little bit heavier. When I was in high school, I dealt with suicide, like, very intense suicidal thoughts, diagnosed with OCD. And I think that, like, and then it didn't even stop there, right? I didn't go to seminary. I got kicked out of every camp that I ever went to, basically. I did not get kicked out of Mechlelet because my sister saved me, and she was a madrika. But I won Mechlelet, almost got kicked out. Seg was too short to get kicked out of, but, I got kicked out of Hask my first year in Hask.
Wow.
I got kicked out of, I went to Masora for, like, 2 weeks and got kicked out of Masora Yachad, like, as an advisor. Like, as a counselor, got kicked out of Masora Yachad. Like, every single place that could kick me out was like, yeah, you're gonna leave now. And I think my mom, honestly, a lot of the time was like, oh my gosh, my daughter is doomed for failure. Like, I remember coming home from when I was kicked out of Masora Yachad and kind of just going to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I don't have special needs, but I feel like I'm the closest to having special needs without actually having special needs. Like, that was, like, because I was just, like, a messed up child, like, I had so many things that was, like, against me. And also, it wasn't like, I was friends with a lot of guys and not good guys, like, I remember, like, I was not bad guys, but, like, drugs and, smoking and alcohol and whatever. And, like, my husband is, like, the pinnacle, like, good boy. Do you know what I'm saying?
He
Like,
seems like the most Yashar guy. Like,
yeah.
Torshraga. Very
Yeah.
very sweet, kind.
Yeah, he never did it. Like, I asked him one time, I said, what is one, like, have you ever, like, gotten in trouble in your life? And he goes, oh, yeah, one time I was at a restaurant, and my friend wanted to, like, go to, like, the shul, like, down the street. So I walked with him to the shul, and we didn't tell anybody. I'm like, oh, okay. When I was 5 years old, I ran away with a boy from the park. It
Oh
was
my
7 tenths of a
goodness.
mile, and I ran to his house, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the epitome of like every mother's worst nightmare. You know, like besides the fact that I didn't do drugs,
Wow.
like even I became Haredi. I'll tell you guys, I became like more like wannabe Haredi in high school. And my uncles, who are not so religious, like complained to my mom a lot, and they were like, "She's going crazy." And my mom's like, "Dude, either she'd be pregnant or Haredi. Pick which one you want." So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, like that was basically like where I was in life. I am. It happens to be that I'm like anti-alcohol. I do like nowadays. I'm like a little bit like less, but like my chuppah was dry. I have no alcohol tolerance, and like, but like other than that, like if there was a rule to break, I broke it. You
Oh
Nice.
know?
wow.
Yeah,
So
Nice.
what
yeah.
is your mom must be like
My mom's so
really
confused
just
now.
like
She's like,
happy. Your family must be just so happy. Like look how far you've come and you've overcome so many obstacles like growing up. Like
yeah,
the like every I like you said, everything was just like going against you. All of the odds were against you. And you met someone really incredible and someone who is like your other half.
yeah.
And
Thank God.
like it's honestly like a breath of fresh air because like I said, probably a lot of our listeners or like a lot of people who are trying to like look into like you said in your last reel, like you want to change society, you want to change how people are looking at shidduchim and dating.
Well, the issue
And
was that, like, I'm
yeah,
telling you, Sarah, I was the epitome of a person that, according to Orthodox standards, should have never gotten married. That
right.
is what. That's literally how I was like living my life. Like, you know, like I'll tell you, like I wasn't even like a good student. I never paid attention to school. People talk about friends, okay, like their friends, not like the TV show. People talk about like their friends that they grew up with.
Mhm.
I've had only one friend in my entire life. Meaning, like I have other friends, but I don't have like I wasn't with the same friends my whole life. I had a lot of friendships go really like when I was depressed. I ruined a lot of friendships, and like
Yeah.
I think that like people literally like I think my mom to this day is shocked that I'm married. Like there's no that's what I'm saying. There's no rhyme or reason that I'm
Right.
married. I look at my
Right.
best friend and I'm like, you are so much more normal than me. How did I get married and you're not? Like it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
Right.
And like I think that people want to like give these reasons and people want to talk about it and people want to like, say things, but in the end of the day, like, no, there's no rhyme or reason that I'm married, except for the fact that Hashem decided, okay, I've been hard enough on Tamar. Let me just give this, let me just shoot this one in, like that's it, and like I think
Right.
even my mom talks to me about it to this day. Like I told my mom very early on that we were gonna get married, like very early on. And I think my mom for sure thought I was like just impulsive, that I was just like that I was like
Mhm.
not sure what I was getting myself into. Um, but like, and I still think like when I go to my husband's family or shul or like whatever or like community, I'm like, he's such a good, like he's such a good guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry that I'm your wife, like, sorry,
Stop,
you know,
Tamar.
I'm like, I didn't like know that like you were gonna marry someone so crazy, because it's not like, I think that a lot of people thought he would probably marry someone more like, and also before we started dating, I also want to say that night that I wasn't sure and I was bugging out, I messaged a few people that I knew that knew him, And I was told by somebody that we would not be a good idea. That we should. He's like, you're not gonna like him. Like, you're not gonna.
Well, if you ask the shadchan, then for sure they're gonna tell you that. For sure.
Yeah.
No, but it wasn't even the shadchan. It was
Oh,
like
really? Just random people.
it was a random guy that like I knew from YU that was friends with Giddy. Like, and the guy was like, "Nah, I don't think you're gonna like him. He's too this. He's too that." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and I think and we ended up being perfect for each other. And I think, one of the reasons that the guy did say, like, oh, you wouldn't like him is because, oh, maybe he's a little bit too, like, Yashar, right? And I'm not, I'm like crazy, but like, that's what makes us Giddy and Tamar, right? Is that like, and even like, it's funny, a lot of kids like in the community will call like people like Mr. and Mrs. and we're like, no, you guys are just Gideon Tamar. And not because we don't have kids, but because like we are like Gideon Tamar. Like we are, I know that we're a force to be reckoned with together because we're like, and I think
You're like
that,
an essence.
yeah,
You're a being.
we're kind of like a yang to the yang, like he's
Yeah.
like so good and I'm like, there's a picture. I'm gonna try to show it to you. This picture is I'm the devil and he's the like, holy angel over there, like
Yeah.
that's what we are, I'm like, what? Can we do this? And he's like, no, Tamar, or like he knows I have a hashtag that's like hashtag DTG. Don't tell Giddy, I'm like, Giddy can find out, like, man, I'm in trouble, And then I end up telling Giddy everything, like I really do.
Right.
But I'm like, DTG, I'm wearing shorts at the pool, like boy shorts at the pool, like don't tell Giddy. And then I end up telling him, he knows, but like, I think that's like very much our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, opposites attract.
Yeah.
Jack.
Now on Giddy's side, was he being presented like multiple women? Like you guys were young. You guys were 22 and then you got married at 23. Like was Giddy
Yeah,
if
sure.
you
Why not?
want, sure, why not? It's up to
I
him.
mention it just because it's like a funny part of the story. So the guy who was not into the Shidduch is someone I knew from YU. And basically when Tamar told me about this, like on the fourth or fifth date, I just started cracking up because this guy, basically what happened was in YU, I took this psychobio class, okay? And I was doing really horribly in the class, like beyond horribly in the class. Then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take a W. This is not worth it. And I'll have the notes for like next semester and I can help people out and I'll do better the next semester. Okay. So I took the W.
Yeah.
And then whatever, I was entitled to get notes from people. So people were not as amazing, but I would always use that as my way to get notes from people. So this guy happened to be I knew he took good notes. I'm like, can you give me notes? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay, but do you mind? I want to study with my friends. Can I share the notes? And he's like, you can use them, but don't share my notes. And me and my friend would be like, don't share my notes. We
anyway, this guy was whatever. Maybe this guy's listening, but we still love you. You are.
I don't even think he remembers the story. But
I don't even know who he is, but
so Giddy, answer the question.
So the question, I mean, not really. I went out with when I was in my last year in YU, I went out basically I had this one really good friend who's someone I've known my entire life, and we actually learned those nights together. We've been learning Mishnah probably for over 12 years, whatever, just really good friends. Our families were really good friends.
You see, how did I end up with someone so learned?
Yeah,
big announcement.
And this is a really good family. This is a really good family of really good people also. But anyway, so his wife set me up with one person. And actually, at that point, I was this connected to Tamar also because I was thinking to myself, okay, fine. If I meet I want to make Aliyah as soon as possible because I just can't stand not living in Israel. But whatever, this friend of mine actually happened to set me up. His wife had 1 year left in Stern, so he was staying another year. And my entire life, I was kind of following him around anyways. I went to the Jewish school I went to. He went to KBY and I went to Torah Toronto. But besides for that, pretty much things were in parallel, and so much so that his parent they had like a little chabura when my parents like first got married with his parents, and like they had a kid, and then I was like, so much so whatever. It was always perilous. So I was like, okay, fine, maybe it's just to be like that. And I talked to this girl, and she's like, them dating. She's like, I'm gonna make Aliyah like right after I finish stern. And I'm like, oh, that's not a bad idea. And then it didn't work out because I wasn't flirty enough for her. And I'm like, I still thought it was a good idea. So I'm like, I'm gonna go with this. And then I went out with a friend of Tamar's, and that was a little bit more chill. Like that, like basically the first one was like we had like a middle person or whatever. And my friend's like, okay, like for this one, I'll just let you guys take care of it. So we took care of it, and then it didn't work out. And then she wanted to set me up with someone else. And I talked to my brother because he knew this person, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, she might be too intense for you. I don't know if it makes sense. And I kind of went with that. And then there was this girl from like another.
Okay, Giddy, you don't have
Whatever.
to go
So I went out with
into
someone
all
else. So I went out with someone
Yeah,
else.
no, it was more of the idea of like the fact of like it sounds like Tamar was just like on paper just like a total red X, you know, for Shidduchim.
Oh, so
but
let's
like
go back to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, but you
But-
did.
but
He
for
did-
you, Giddy, like you are like YU, Torah Shraga, like you
You grew up in
know,
the same community his whole life.
like you know what I mean?
I
So
don't
like
know,
very
like, and it's
easy,
going
like
back to, like,
breezy.
as much as like we already mentioned Avi's name, and I don't know if we're going to keep it or not, edit him out, but like I always really loved Avi, but like at the same time, like I don't know, like
Well, you were being set up by all these Rebbeim.
I was setting up a different rebbeim and thing like this one Rebbe of mine wanted to set me up, and then the girl was busy. That was.
But
the
you
only
also
person.
saw some pictures of them, and they were skinnier than I was.
No, I didn't see any pictures. Of
You
this other
didn't?
person. No.
But you didn't want to go out with me originally because I was heavy.
Yeah, I was like I was like a little bit intimidated by that maybe, and then like
you also have to
like,
remember he's a stick.
I don't know, and I saw she was friends with people like guys on Facebook. I didn't know what I wanted to do about that.
It's okay, Tamara. It's fine. My husband also didn't like my picture. It's fine.
My
He told
first
me after
date-
I think like 2 weeks ago he told me this. So don't
Our
worry.
first date, I went to him and I was like, yeah, I'm friends with guys and I don't plan on changing that, just so you know.
So I wasn't and she's not really friends with guys. Also, like she didn't go to the YU library in Stern. Like that's pretty friendly.
Oh, the library, the good old library.
Like I'm saying, like she was one of those. She didn't come
You
to
also
YU
didn't do
really, like I'm
the
saying, like, pretty pro.
the what's it called? The books, the
Sperm sale? The sperm sale?
book sale,
Saying,
farm
like,
sale.
you didn't go to any of these like mixed YU. I mean, I even went to like one or two of those. Like,
I didn't really like
Yeah.
college. I'll tell you the truth that because I didn't go to seminary, I basically wanted to start at the legacy program, which is a Jewish education program. And I went there my freshman year and I said to them, I'm like, hey, I really want to be part of this, legacy program. Can I, be part of it? And they go, you never went to seminary. Why would you want to be part of this Jewish, education program? Why would you want to be a Jewish educator if you never went to seminary? And I was like, just because I was depressed in high school and I wasn't allowed to go to seminary doesn't mean that I don't want to be a Jewish educator.
Mhm.
And that
Right.
really swayed me away from
the
Stern.
whole logic is all-
I hung out with a lot of guys in Yachad and Hask. My whole chevra there with Yachad,
But they were a lot fruit, which is also very important to us getting.
they
set
were
up.
not much firmer.
Some of them were.
You
Except for
weren't
the ones that would smoke and drink and
you weren't
Oh, yeah.
allowed to go to seminary, meaning all the seminaries said no?
my parents did not allow me to apply
Oh, your parents, okay.
until much later. And then but we know that I would have gone to MMY.
Interesting, okay.
I know,
Interesting.
right? It's
No,
very.
none of my cats knows Tamar better than girls who went to MMY. Like he sees her at weddings and stuff, and he gives like a shear, and he remembers going to her house. And I don't think he remembers that for a lot of these other girls. Like I'm saying,
I mean, he's rabbi cats. Who knows?
Yeah,
Um,
no,
Yeah,
he's a fantastic guy. Yeah.
But I think that for
apparently it's a very
me,
good memory.
I wanted to be. I became Haredi in high school. I wanted to be Haredi. Now I'm not Haredi at all. But in high school, I was want to be Haredi because my sister and then some advisors, and I was just okay. Those were my top role models. So it wasn't I was so. I was just very weird religiously. Like, people would be like, "Oh, wear, like cover your knees, like cover your like legs all the way," and I'd wear like, knee highs that were like rainbow color.
Mm,
I don't know if that would have been like, acceptable in like Beis Yaakov,
right.
Like I also wanted to switch when I was in high school to Berea, like all the years. I'm like, Mom, I just want to go to Berea. I just want to go to Berea. I just want to go to Berea. I went to my note like all 4 years.
Mm,
And I think that I think a lot of it had to do with my depression, and like my parents knew. They're like, you're gonna make Aliyah one day, so just like don't go to seminary, you'll make Aliyah one
just
day.
go make Aliyah.
That was the
Wow.
one thing and I think that is where Giddy and I do like connect a lot. Come in the camera. So I think that that's where Giddy and I do connect a lot of like I'll tell you another thing that a lot of people wonder about in Shidduchim is the question of Aliyah. And on the YU Connects profile, there's a yes, maybe, or no.
Mhm.
Right.
And I had a conversation with my sister, and I'm like, Leia, what do I do? Do I put like a yes? Do I put maybe? Whatever. And my sister goes, have your options open. Put maybe. And then after like a year of having maybe on my profile, I was like, that makes no sense to me. How, like, I would not be attracted to a guy that didn't have my core value of Aliyah. Like, for
Mhm.
me, living in Israel is as much of something I believe in as keeping Shabbos or keeping kosher or any of that. Like, for me, like, that's a core principle. And I think that, like, a lot of people don't realize how important it is to put Aliyah as a priority if it is a priority to you. I think that they get scared away and they're like, oh, like, yeah, I want to make Aliyah, but like, okay, but maybe my like future husband won't. If it's a priority to you, if it's a value of yours, say yes.
I
Like,
also used to get bothered by that also, like, cause like I don't know, Max, did you go to YU or did you go to school?
I went to Skokie. I went to Skokie Shiva.
Oh, Scopes, good place.
The yeshiva.
The yeshiva.
Yeah.
Giddy
Yeah.
loves Chicago. Just so you
Oh,
know.
definitely. Chicago's great. It's I was there for 3 years.
Hey man, so it's a quote Ferris Bueller, like the question about Chicago is not what are we going to do, it's what are we going to do. So
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
Giddy the
Yeah.
90s kid, by the way, if
that's
you
an
ever
that's an
want
80s movie, but
if you ever want to hear him quote anything from the 90s, like if you ever need a quote from the 90s, just call Giddy.
I mean that's an 80s movie, but still.
An 80s movie, whatever.
Yeah.
John Hughes loved Chicago. He loved the northern suburbs. That's why like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Home Alone, Uncle Buck. That basically there was a school like.
Okay, stay on topic.
Whatever. We don't need to stay. We don't need to get into it. But anyways,
It's good for
going back to-
Shidduchim. Okay, don't worry.
If we start a podcast about 1980s hits movies, Giddy,
Okay,
you're our
no,
guy.
But going back to YU, so like also like in these like things sessions about dating and things like that, they would also say like, oh, like it's not the worst thing in the world. You'll figure it out. But like if this is like a value for you, like you should like stick with it. You should stick with Aliyah.
Yeah, I was told. Oh, bless you.
Going back to what you were saying,
Bless you.
Sarah, about like being in like certain boxes and things like that and checking things off. Like, like I was very like set, like things should be like a certain way, and like I was like very like wanted to like a certain type of girl and things like that. And like also like as much as I loved Avi, like I'm saying, like I don't know, like he like made like this like rap video with like Rav Soloveitchik and the Lobster Reb, and he was like a little bit different. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like I don't know, like Avi, like is he like firm enough to give me good suggestions?
I had my full faith in Avi.
Even though we love Avi, but Avi had a great idea, and like and like basically like this other person,
and he's gonna be our neighbor, so be nice to him.
This other person,
Oh, wow.
Really? Wow.
someone
It's
around the same
exciting.
time, and they were busy, and I'm like, okay, like I might as well give this a shot,
And
Right.
right away.
It was a good decision.
I'll tell you what it is also, okay? And I've been told this a lot in my life. First of all, people always think I'm shorter than I am. I'm 5 feet.
Uh-huh.
I'm very, very, very short. People think I'm much taller. People also think that, when they meet me, they're, even if I am a little bit on the curvier side, again, I'm not like super gigantic, but I'm saying even if I am a little bit on the curvier side, okay, but I exude confidence. And like and I'm not saying I'm always confident. I have a lot of insecurities. Giddy can definitely tell you that I have a lot of insecurities. But I exude confidence. And I think that that's a big part of me, of like, okay, maybe I am a little bit on the curvier side, or maybe I am short, or maybe I am, I don't know, all these different things. But like when I walk outside and when I meet people, like I'm a friendly face. I'm a happy person. I love people. I love, I, I walk around with confidence, and I'm confident in who I am, and I'm confident in what I stand for, and like I know what my values are. And like I think that was something, I just want to say that I think that's something that my parents, very much instilled in me. My mom was a single mom for 4.5 years, which is not something to take lightly, especially because, like, okay, she had my younger brother who was 3.5 when my dad died, and my sister who was 10. But I always say that I was like 20 kids in one, and like I was just a lot to handle. And my mom always said that like grades don't matter, just be courteous and respectful, because she's like, don't bully other kids, don't be mean to other kids, don't throw binders out the window, like don't punch kids, be nice.
Right.
And like, yeah, I was a bully, 100%. Like I was a bully back in the day, but my mom really like honed that in and was like, Tamar, think, be nice, don't bully other children. And like I think that like I think that and I think that that's how my life was directed, a bit of like, okay, like life may not be perfect, and life may be really, really tough, and maybe I am an outcast, or maybe I am not like, in the box, and maybe the box is here and I'm like on the other side of the room. But like, in the end of the day, if you're courteous and respectful and exude confidence, like you will win out in the end.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
going back,
Yeah.
I'm surprised Mark didn't mention it, but like Avi was the one who set us up, but he really got the idea.
He got the idea from two Shauna Bet boys.
Who knew
Okay.
Tamar from
Okay.
Hats.
Okay, he knew the people that.
I mean, if you guys, sorry, oh my god, if you guys don't want to, it's okay if you don't want to share.
No,
but it's up to
people
you.
The people that had the idea, was from, they knew me from Camp Hask. And I always said, like, I was friends with a lot of guys in Hask, and I was friends with I'm just like friends with everybody. Like, I'm just like a very social, loving person. And so one of the guys, like, basically, I always said about Hask that I'm not going to meet my Bashert in Hask, but it will be because of Hask that I meet my Bashert. And so that was very much accurate, that I met my Bashert because of Hask.
Oh,
That's
okay.
You knew that, you're saying, like, this whole time?
No, I was just like,
You had a feeling.
It's
Yeah, I
like
had
the
a
rub
feeling.
of Nativ always says that. He doesn't say exactly those words, but a lot of Nativ boys go there.
A lot
because
of
it's like a
people-
segula for like a good Shauna bed, and like it really helps you. It's really fun.
A lot of people meet their spouses in Hask, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm never gonna meet my spouse in Hask. Like, that's not gonna happen for me. But I kind of had the inkling, and actually to this day, Giddy has never walked foot in Camp Hask.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
crazy to me, because
crazy.
I knew every single camper in Hask when I was there. And I'm just like, how were you never there, Giddy?
Yeah. But Tamar, I did just want to shift gears, and I hope it's okay. A lot of guys who my husband and I, like my husband's friends specifically, also overlap with Max's friends as well. They have like a cutoff age. Let's say they're like 35, 36 in their later 30s. Either divorced, or it just hasn't happened for them yet, of them getting married. They'll tell me that they do want to date someone younger because of fertility. And I always have a hard time with this question. I think, first of all, in today's medical world, it's fantastic. The lengths that have gone for, like, the progressive lengths that have gone into fertility, and it's just incredible what, like, today's science can do for fertility in general. So that's one thing. The second thing is, in my opinion, it's not a golden standard, a woman's age, even though, yes, as you do get older, you can look at, like, a graph, and, like, your levels do decrease. But in my opinion, I always tell them, like, how do you know?
Yeah,
Like, who are
100%.
you to say, because someone is, let's say, in the age of 26 instead of 32,
Yeah,
somebody at 26 is going to be able to have children easier, or whatever the case may be.
100%. So I'm gonna answer your
So,
question.
yeah.
I want to say, first of all, I'm not a doctor, but at the same time, the amount of knowledge I have, because I have worked with so many people, so many professionals in this field. Like, my doctor even looks at me as, like, he'll be like he's giving me, he's transferring an embryo into me, and he's like, "You help so many people," and I'm like, "Thanks,"
Right.
and
Well,
we're like,
no, I think, honestly, like, hearing it from you firsthand is, like,
yeah,
a lot more interesting, because you're also the patient. You've gone
yeah,
through it, and you did get married at 22 and 23. I mean,
yeah,
you did get married at 23, and, like, things are just not in your control. And,
yeah.
like, when I hear these requests, to me, it's, like, literally
Great.
insane.
So I'll tell you, I speak to hundreds of people. Like I feel like I'm always speaking to people, right? Like I'm always speaking to people about fertility, right? Like that's a big part of my life. It's just like talking to people about their fertility and helping them, and even at this point, like I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not like I'll never be like I'm a doctor. You can give me your ultrasound and blood work results, and I'll like figure it out. But like at the same
Yeah.
time, people do send me their blood work and ultrasound results, and I'm like able to read them. Um, and I think that a few different things I want to say. First of all, infertility happens to 1 in 6 couples. Now, that spectrum is very big. Um, and there's a lot of different diagnoses. I hate when people think it's just PCOS. It's not. PCOS is
Mhm.
one of the many, many, many diagnoses. It's also not just a woman's issue. The statistics are that men are 33% of the issue, women are 33% of the issue, and combined it's 33% of the issue. Meaning it is equal. It's equal thirds: a man's issue, a woman's issue, and together. Um, I also want to say that there's incredible organizations, in case anybody is struggling, that there's very, very specific organizations that people should go to for different things, and knowing who to go to for the right things is very important.
Mhm.
Um, for us, they there's a few things that I want to say. So,
But I think specifically to like people who are older, I think is like a question, right?
no, I
So,
know,
like,
I know. I'm gonna get to that. I'm in the middle of getting to
It's
that. I
okay.
just
Take your time.
have like a lot to say on this topic, so I'm just gonna break it down for you. I think we started doing IVF. I believe it was 2021.
Okay.
So I was at the time. I was. I think I had just turned 28. So I am. Now I'm 32. Um, we are still getting eggs. We're still making embryos, even at 32. In fact, we're making better embryos because we have learned over the years what our issues are, and what they're not. um,
Right.
when we first started, they thought I had PCOS. We learned that we do not have PCOS. I have DOR. There's a few different other issues, and that's very important to note. Of like, right? And I also think it's very important to have a really good doctor that is going to help you with this process. Um, when we started struggling, we've been struggling to conceive since like in total, it's been 6.5 years. I have seen people that are in their 40s or 50s conceive quicker than us. There is such thing as donor eggs. There is such thing as donor sperm. There is such thing as freezing your eggs. I definitely recommend if you're over 30, I would definitely look, and you're not married, I would definitely look into the process of freezing your eggs. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really big thing. But I think that men have to realize that too, of like, people can freeze their eggs, and you can use a donor egg, and a lot of people use these alternative methods, and people don't necessarily know. In this day and age, there are so many different ways to have
Mm-hmm.
a child, and I'm not just talking about adoption. I'm talking about all the, like, donors, and freezing, and just like, I and it's so important to talk to your doctor about reproductive health, because there are all those options. I think a lot of men don't know all these options, and I think a lot of men just assume, oh, she's not going to have a baby because she's 39, but like, also, I have to say that, like, I know a few 39-year-olds that got pregnant much quicker than I did, and I think that, like, you also have to look at fertility as like a spectrum, right? There are people that, like, maybe the people, maybe somebody is 39 and heavy and whatever, but maybe they could get pregnant quicker than someone that's 28 and is not. I also think that the most important thing, honestly, is to look into your AMH level and your FSH level. And if you haven't looked into those yet, like, ask your doctor, because those things
For a
are
woman, you mean? Like for a
for a
woman.
woman,
Yeah.
that they should know what their AMH and FSH level is. And I would also say that if you really want to help yourself, do more genetic testing than necessarily would, because genetic testing is like a really, we've done, at this point, we've done every single genetic test ever. But like, there's a lot of genetic tests that people don't know about. Like, when we first got married, I did Dori Sharim.
Oh yeah.
That
I was
was
gonna say, my husband and I, we did J screen, and it was fantastic. The amount of things that come out, we were like, whoa.
Yeah, so like, that wouldn't have helped us at all. But like, even J screen, right? Like, we have done karyotype, which is a test of miscarriage, like a gene of miscarriage. Because we had 4 miscarriages, we've done a microchip analysis, which is even like more in depth. I think, like, to in Miras Hashem, everyone will find a bashert ASAP. Also,
Right.
it's my birthday today. It's my Hebrew birthday. So I'm going to give everyone a bracha that everyone should find their zivug ASAP.
Amen.
Amen.
And that it should be the right person, and that they should that person should do it on them like Giddy does on me.
Amen. And also for men, just also for like the older men, what we said, it's like 33%, 33%, 30%. Like, it's important to talk to your doctor, like, whatever, like, there's
And
a little bit
testosterone levels, like, what do men need? Like,
I would
to test their testosterone?
So first of all, I would, like, you can do a sperm test of like seeing, the morphology, motility, the how many you have, like, that is important. There is a bunch of new tests coming out in terms of sperm. I would, and like, you can go to your urologist and be like, hey, I heard about the thing of the varicycle. I'm gonna say that wrong. The versicle vein. Like, can you check that out and like see? Because making yourself like as ready to be able to have a child is really, you can do that. And like, there are many guys that need surgery because of that. And I think that like there are so many things that go into it. And also, like I have to say, and this came up with my therapist not that long ago, there's a lot of women that are not just freezing their eggs, but actually going on to be single mothers of by choice, quote unquote, because they're not finding the right person for them. And I think that
Mhm.
like, you know,
At that point, yeah, I mean, but that's also important for Shidduchim because like people have to like it might be something that you might want to like think about too because like okay, like it might be like not the way that you wanted things, but like if this is a really good person for you, you know, and like they're a little bit older and like they might be a little bit older, you might be a little bit older, it might be something that you might want to think into.
but I also, but and no, I don't think you're making sense, honey. But I think in terms of that, I think that like there are a lot of people that do have babies, single mothers by choice, quote unquote. And I think that like we have to realize how hard it is for these people to become single mothers by choice, and that it's really not a choice. And I hate saying single mothers by choice because you're looking at this person and it's like, what are they supposed to do? Yes, okay, maybe the fact that they are not a mother, right? Maybe the fact that they are becoming a mother, even though they aren't married, is a choice, quote unquote. But are they not supposed to have a baby? And I heard people in the firm world are starting to have become single mothers by choice. A lot of women, especially in Israel, I've heard, are starting to become single mothers by choice. And I think that is awesome, but it's also scary for Shidduchim. That Shidduchim are becoming so bad and that it's so hard to find people zivug that is what they're ending up doing is having children by themselves. And I'm not saying it's bad to be a single mother by choice, chas v'shalom times a million. What I am saying is Shidduchim need to not be as tough. Otherwise, you're going to have many more single mothers by choice, and
Right.
the marriage rate may drop a lot.
But also don't write them off. They already decided.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
don't
you
write
bring
them
up a good point. No, you bring up a good point. But also I mean, I feel like we're in agreement that like age is literally just a number and it's
Yeah.
not it's not a determinant
Yeah,
100%.
when we were living in our old community, there was a woman that was over 50, and her husband was like 65, and they welcomed their first child they welcomed two children into the world.
Wow.
So I'm just saying,
She was
like,
age 50.
she was older than 50.
Wow.
I think that she might have been 55
Modern
when the
medicine.
child was born.
Yeah. It might have been.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I'm just saying, like, things can happen, and don't write anybody off because of age. I hear it and I understand why men do it,
Mhm.
but don't, because it's not as scary as we may think.
Mhm.
And also, there are many, I know people that are in their 20s and had to use donor eggs. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's not, age is really just a number, and it's not
Mhm.
you know, make it or break. It should not be a make it or break it.
Make it a break point. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow, we covered a lot of ground today. Max, any more questions for Tamar?
No further questions, Your Honor.
No rapid fire questions.
You're not gonna ask about our sleep schedules?
What?
Sleep schedules.
You guys listen to 1840?
No.
Fine, I got one. I got one.
Oh, okay.
At first, when you were starting your social media, Giddy, like, what were your feelings about it? Were you all in from the beginning, or were you like, I just kind of got to go with this, or what's your feelings on that?
I kind of just like
Yeah.
went with it, you know. It made Tamar happy, you know. Actually, I remember like I had a friend of mine like it actually goes back to the fertility kind of journey. He he wanted to talk to me about like in like a more like public setting. Like I won't go into details about who it is, so we can't figure out who it is. Like, let's say it was like a live or podcast or something like that. And I'm like, listen, like I don't want to talk about that now because like, you know, what if that ends up airing when like we're in between cycles or something and like Ein Hara and like I don't want to deal with any of that stuff at that time. And then he's like, oh, but you let Tamar like do all these stuff on social media and be all public about that. And I'm like, listen, man, like this like makes her happy and it's a good outlet and all
We
that.
also have to say that we have asked Rav Ben-Narsh, like our Rav, who is the head of Grus.
He's one of the Roche Kola.
He's one of the Roche Kola at Grus
Yeah.
about my page. We talked to him if we, you know, have questions and whatever. And he's actually pretty supportive of the page. And he did not see anything. Meaning, obviously, he does not know everything that goes on in the page. Like, I don't know if I would send him my sex ed, you know, reel. But for the most part, you know, I think that he is on board. And also, you know, one of the big things I always say is Hashem can say no to me, Hashem can say no to Giddy, but Hashem can't say no to thousands of people davening for us. So I think that is a big inspiration for me.
That is actually a really nice thought. And I was also thinking, going back to what you said about Shidduchim in terms of like having singles kind of more like, I mean, I guess a little bit more vocal in terms of like their suffering kind of out loud. They'll like, I know like when I was on the bra side, I know Max is not the biggest fan, but I found that like everybody like had fun and like we were single, we had parties, like we were able to enjoy our singlehood together. Not a lot of people are very vocal about fertility or they like to keep it hush hush. Which it is. It's very private. It is very private, but it's hard then because it's such a private, sensitive matter that the outlets out there, not a lot of people vocalize.
Fair, I think that a big thing, and people look over this a lot.
Yeah,
is, you know, in the single scene, right? You have people that are single and they're, you know, 24, and then you have people that are single and they're like 50. Okay. Infertility, you also have that wide spectrum. I think that the difference is that like there's more overlap in conversations because people are like, oh, like I'm going through infertility. Oh, I'm going through, like, people don't realize how big of a gap it is, and people will be like, oh, have you tried this? I'm like, yes, I have tried that. You know, like
Right.
I've tried Clomid, I've tried Letrozole. Thanks for the information, you know? But like I think that some people are very much like, you know, have you done this Segula? You know, it's, you know, there's some
That's
people.
something we have in common, I think, with the Shidduch thing.
No, but I think that there's some. I'm not saying against the Shidduch thing. I'm saying against people that are just starting their journey with fertility, and then people, right? And then they have a baby, and then they're starting again, right? So like we've already we know people that have struggled with infertility, had a child, now are trying again to have their second child while we're still struggling. And it's like, how do we talk to them when we're no longer struggling? I mean, when we are still struggling and they're no longer struggling, you know? And I think that, but then they're struggling again, but it's a different struggle because it's like they already have a
100%.
And
It sounds, yeah.
I think being single and being married is a little bit more black and white than the fertility world.
Gotcha.
I mean, broken engagements do happen a lot, and divorce does happen a lot, but it's like
there's a multi-dimension to the fertility world. Yeah, sure.
So you were always just open about it, or did you ever like think for a moment? Did you feel that you really like it was just natural to you?
We live in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and we didn't have kids 3 years into our marriage, and we're both extroverts. So when I would go to the park and I would be without my kid, there was no choice. It was like, why are you guys at the park without a child? That's kind of weird. So I'd be like, hey, I'm Tamar. We're struggling with infertility. Nice to meet you. Okay. You know, and like kids do say stuff to me. Like I'm saying, even kids that have known me for a long time. Like last year, there was a girl that came up to me who I've known since she's born, basically. And she's like, do you have any daughters? And I'm like, no, you know that. And like I was totally fine with it, but I think that like I also think it's an education factor, right? Like a lot of parents, not that I'm talking to everybody about, not that I'm talking to the kids about the details, like the minute details, but I think that like there are a lot of conversations that have been brought up, Dafka, because Gideon and I are in the community. We're a big part of the community. We've been married for 8.5 years and don't have kids. And we become close to a lot of our neighbors' kids. And like, they ask questions, and they dive in for us. And like, I'll tell, like, and their parents are okay with it. It's not like I'm not gonna go to them and be like, let's talk about sperm and egg, and no, but like, I mean, I'll tell you this story and then I'll wrap it up. But for Purim, 4 years ago, when we were one of our Purim costumes, I did decide that it would be very funny to dress up as doctors and give out Kinder eggs and jellyfish. And like, parents
It's a
got
cute
it.
idea.
But like,
Yeah.
The kids wouldn't get it.
the kids weren't gonna get it, but like,
Uh-huh.
it's just fun. But I think that, but I'm not gonna go up to the kids and be like, "Do you get it?" But like at the same time, like they, especially kids, like I'll say one last story. My nephew came up to me this weekend at the mall. We were like at the mall together, and he goes, "You're a mom," and I'm like, "I'm not a mom. You know that. I've been married 8.5 years. Do you see my kids?" He goes, "No, but
Yeah.
you're married, so that's close enough." And like a lot of kids do think married equals mom, and I think that it's a really big learning opportunity, especially because of how open Giddy and I are, and how like friendly Giddy and I are, and like whatever that like people, the kids are able to see. Oh wow, like Giddy and Tamar don't have kids, but like their marriage is strong, and they have conversations with our parents on the same like level, and they know like what I'm talking about, like, and they grew up with it. So I think like if one of the kids ever struggles with infertility, chas v'shalom times a million when they are older, or something like that, it won't be their first time. And my guidance counselor struggled for 10 years.
Wow.
Between like after she did have a kid, but then she struggled for 10 years, and like I definitely remember her talking about it, and it made a big difference in my life for sure.
Also, like the
Wow.
parents being as adults, like I think that's also something that involves Shidduchim. It's more the Haredi world, but like also like especially in like that in like those circles, they'll put like single women like at like a kids table, and like it's just like remembering that like that like adults are like adults too, and people too, and just like just being like a sensitive person.
Sorry that I have one more story, but I need to say this because
It's okay.
Okay. I'll never forget this. I went to, when I was 24, we moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh. And I went to a person's house, and they were more yeshivish, and they went up to me. Their 16-year-old daughter goes up to me and goes, "Mrs. Ben Svi?" And I'm like, huh? I'm 24. Why are you calling me Mrs. Ben Svi? And she literally, she goes to me and she goes, yeah, because you're married. So I asked her, I said, well, what would you call someone that they're not married? She goes, I'd call them by their first name. And I go, well, what makes me different? Because I'm married, you're going to call me Mrs., but because they're not married, you're going to call them by their first name? That doesn't make sense, especially because so many more people that aren't married are probably a lot more mature than me. So let's, I think that that's definitely something that we want to debunk, and just like, don't call people a mom when they're not a mom. Don't call people, don't call people like Mrs. when they're like, don't only call people that are married Mrs. and people that are single by their first name. Like, no, like, just like,
And
treat
just don't make assumptions about anything.
everyone should be at the same level, and like it should not be different if one's there's no rhyme or reason why someone is married and someone is not. Don't give someone that's not married less respect. Don't give someone that's not married less respect, and don't give someone that is married more respect. Give everyone respect, be courteous and respectful, and be confident.
Yeah. Love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tamar. This was so incredible. And Giddy, yeah.
And Giddy.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me
You
in
made-
last minute. You got a
Oh,
chance.
You
got
made a
it.
surprise
You got it.
appearance.
Exactly.
You're like
Well-
the famous surprise.
I have to say that, I'm planning an event right now for the summer. You heard it first here. I'm planning an event right now for the summer to celebrate 5 years of the page. And
Wow.
I said to Giddy, it's going to be a kumsitz. But if you don't come, at least in the beginning, before the kumsitz, everyone's going to be upset. Because people come to my page for you, honey. Not me. For you.
He makes his appearances. He pops in every now and then. Yeah.
Exactly.
And Tamar,
Exactly.
what is your social media handles? Where can people follow you or find you?
Tales of Tamar on Instagram. Tamar Ben Svi on LinkedIn. I think it's just Tamar Ben Svi. Maybe it's Tamar Berger Ben Svi. We changed their last name when we got married. Like, we changed his last name, so we kept Berger in a lot of places. Tamar Berger Ben Svi. And I am a social media manager, and I really just try to help organizations and all types of businesses make an impact in the world. And Giddy's a recruiter.
Amazing.
Yeah. So if you live in Israel and you're looking for a job, if you also have like a contact in like Portugal and the US too, you can feel free to Guidon at urbanrecruits.co.il.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for being on our podcast. We appreciate your openness. We appreciate your thoughtfulness.
Was this the most chaotic episode you've ever had?
No, I don't think so. I think it was fun. It was a lot of fun. What do you mean?
Awesome.
No, it was great.
Awesome. Well, bringing Giddy on.
Max, I was going to ask, by the way, you're from Chicago?
No, I'm originally from Miami, actually.
Ooh.
Oh, that's how you know Barman.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice. Should we just give a big shout out to Benjamin Barman on this podcast?
Please,
Benjamin Barman.
Yes, sure.
Shout out to Benjamin Barman.
Oh my
Sure, he'll
gosh.
appreciate it. I'm sure he'll appreciate it.
You can keep that in.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
And thank you guys for listening. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
And remember, everything will always be about Shidduchim. Catch you in the next episode.